Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Control Alt Love, where we are today discussing the mono-poly relationship, the elusive and difficult yet totally doable situation if you're with the right people. So I wanted to start today talking about some notes for polyamorous people from a monogamous partner. So things a monogamous partner would like their polyamorous partner to know. So please reassure me and make me feel heard. Do not belittle my feelings. Do not tell me that my feelings are wrong or have no basis in logic. Please be willing to negotiate boundaries that help me feel safe and that are within what you can put up with. While it is my choice to stay with you, and thus I bear some responsibility for my own happiness, keep in mind that if you are doing something that hurts me, I'm going to get frustrated once in a while. So while I work on being less hurt by your behavior, please have a lot of patience and consider slowing down. Understand that I'm doing this primarily because I love you. Don't argue that I should agree to polyamorous relationships because I can go and have relationships with others. It's not something that I need or want. Please show your appreciation. Taking a polyamorous relationship with me as your right will only cause me to resent you. Introduce me to your other lovers. If you don't, I am liable to imagine that they must be gods or goddesses like God or goddess like, and that I don't hold a candle. It's also important to me that I know that they aren't trying to take you away from me. Be aware that if we act monogamously for a long period of time, I may start to assume that that is the way it will remain. This is not your fault, but be aware that if it happens, and the way to prevent it is to gently remind me that you are poly, even when you aren't acting that way. For partners opening a previous mono relationship, move slowly. This is very difficult to get used to. And while you may want to find 3 lovers right away, especially if you felt repressed for a while, baby steps will help me get used to an open relationship more easily. And finally, I'm not crying, angry, upset about this on purpose. Whether it's social conditioning or deeper than that, I'm not trying to make your life miserable by needing comfort. And also, I wanted to read the notes from monogamous people, things your polyamorous partner would like you to know. I love you for who you are, not for what you do. If someone else I'm dating goes to the same restaurant that you and I have gone to, or has the same hobby, or likes the same television show, it doesn't mean that I'm replacing you. People are not interchangeable. You are not being superseded. However, if there is something you consider special, something we do or someplace we go that you consider sacred, please let me know. Tell me about it. Don't expect that I will always feel the same way you do about everything we've done together. I may not know which of these things are so important to you that you can't bear to share them. It's not unreasonable to want to hold something aside as a symbol of your uniqueness, but you have to tell me what that is. Your feelings are important. Don't keep quiet just because you want me to be happy. If something is bothering you, please let me know. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm not doing this because you aren't enough for me, because I want to share my life and my love with other people. I'm not off having wild orgies while you sit at home. The reality of what my other partner and I are doing is not anywhere near as bad as your imagination makes it out to be. Don't be afraid to ask me about what my partner and I are doing. Knowledge can drive away fear. If you and I never discuss these things, your imagination can create a fearsome illusion that knowledge can't dispel. The other people involved are human beings, not demons or monsters. You have the right to expect to be treated with courtesy and respect by them. Please try to treat them with courtesy and respect also. And finally, I'm not perfect. If I say or do something that upsets you, please let me know. Please try to address small problems before they become big problems. And so, here. And so I want today to only talk about relationships in which 2 people knowingly enter into a monopoly relationship from the beginning, not one that has something going on and the 2 of you decide to open up for one person. Some of this material will apply to that situation, but I think it deserves its own show. So today we will be discussing only the first situation. And today I have on my co-host, Laurel Lessies. Hi, Laurel.
Hello.
How are you today?
Well, like I said, I'm sitting in the dark, not feeling terribly well, but I had to be here, so you're getting my voice today. So.
Awesome. And I know you also brought on your partner, Jacen Ulfric. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
So how are you doing today, Jason?
I am doing excellent.
Fantastic. So we're going to have a really great show. And first I wanted to start off, do you guys have any response to those notes? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to say anything about them? Do you disagree with any of them?
There was one, actually, Jason was watching me do this. I'm sorry, I can't like show you guys on the screen today. That would have been perfect. Okay, so when I first started exploring poly for myself, I'm the poly one in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started exploring it for myself, when you started reading, however, if there is something you consider special, something we do or some place we go that you consider sacred, please let me know. My first polyamorous partner didn't really understand why that was a big deal. And I was brand new to it. And I'm like, well, there's nothing that separates me from your other partners. I think that this, in the right situation, in moderation, can be very helpful for mono poly couples as well as people exploring poly together for the first time, because it is really scary to share these things with other people. Like, for example, I wanted only like certain guns that like I had shot with my partner to, like, they were my favorite. I wanted those to be the guns that I shoot with or that he shoots with, not that he would take some other girl shooting with. So that kind of thing. I think it can also be a little bit of a crutch. So you do have to be realistic with your partner and make sure that they're not using it as like a weapon against you. Be like, but that's our sushi place. We only go to that sushi place with each other. Like, no, I'm sorry. It's the best sushi in town. I'm going to take someone there, regardless. Anyway, that's my thought opening.
Agreed. So, for me with Ryan, we have a fluid bond agreement. And, I am becoming more comfortable sharing this sort of intimate detail, but he is the only person that I'm fluid bonded with. And that's our agreement and that's our special thing. And it was very easy for me to agree to that because to me, it is something that I want with only one person, and especially one person at a time. And so, and it made him feel better about our relationship because he is monogamous at heart. He has tried dating other people and just literally can't get interested. So it's been a journey for us trying to figure it out. And I think that is really, that sacred thing has really, really helped him. And, I wanted to mention one of the other things on the list that I noticed is, it says, I'm going to get frustrated once in a while. So while I work on being less hurt by your behavior, please have lots of patience and consider slowing down. I think it's really important to bring up here, and something we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show, is the idea of owning your own feelings and your own emotions. And I think that this statement almost goes so far as to say, as to blame somebody else for hurting you. You can't hurt someone else. They can be hurt by your actions. You can be a catalyst, but your feelings are your own, and you need to take that into consideration, because something that hurts you that the other person does may not necessarily hurt anyone else. So how would I know that this action hurts you other than you telling me?
Well, that's a big component of like when couples go to counseling. Your counselor, almost without fail, every counselor I have ever talked to has said, when you are communicating with each other, when you are fighting or arguing, you need to take a stance of, it makes me feel like X when you do, Y or Z, instead of you make me feel like, it makes me feel. So it's your action that has made me feel like this, but I feel this way, not you make me feel this way.
Yeah, it
So
definitely closes off communication when it sounds like you're blaming someone else. And whether you're even to an emotionally mature enough place to understand that your feelings are your own and that you should take responsibility for them, think about how you feel when somebody says to you, "You made me feel jealous or angry," and suddenly you're to blame. And now you're thinking about who's to blame and playing the blame game and going back and forth and seeing who's more wrong in the situation versus dealing with the feelings. And in a communication where there's no blame and there's only responsibility and claim for those emotions, you can move on to thinking about the emotions that you want to address, because you wouldn't have brought up the emotions if the emotions weren't important. And it's much more important than trying to blame this person you supposedly love and care about.
I think that's definitely, that's key for both mono, and poly relationships. That's just relationships in general. So anybody who's sitting here going, oh, I couldn't possibly be with someone who's polyamorous because they'll make me feel like X. I'm like, no, honey, you couldn't possibly be with anybody because you'll make you feel like X. So you got to work on your communication first before you have anything to offer to another person. So.
Absolutely. So, Jacen, was there anything on this list, especially in the notes to monogamous people, or even the notes from polyamorous people to monogamous people, that really stood out to you that you would like to comment on? I'm sure there's got to be plenty in that list. Yeah, I mean, you come from a totally different perspective than we do.
I think the one thing that any monogamous person is going to worry about, even I had a little issue with this from time to time, in the beginning, was if Laurel did meet someone who had very similar interests to me, that somewhere in the back of my mind, I would be, oh, she's found this person that she's spending time with that also likes Star Wars, for example. I wonder why she's going to spend time with him right now instead of, and then like it would just like trickle down from there. So I think the biggest thing is to remember that there are going to be people that your partner loves you for a lot of the qualities that you have. So it would make sense that they are looking for those similar qualities in their other partners as well. Because there's always like that.
That is a fantastic piece of wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I only hang out with nerds and weirdos, so sorry, Lauren, you are either a nerd or a weirdo or both.
I have laid claim to all of those terms.
Okay.
So, one of the other things that I noticed on this list was the desire to meet other partners. Now, that is a unique quality. That is not necessarily the case in every single mono-poly situation, or even any poly situation. I mean, I think that there's, a level at which people are willing to put up with people they don't get along with. But I think that there's also a uniqueness in whether people actually want to meet the other partners in the situation. There's plenty of don't ask, don't tell relationships, which I've made a firm stand on and still make a firm stand on the fact that they don't work, because I think all relationships are based on honesty and communication, and that's the opposite of both of those things.
It's like, just don't worry about it. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And then you start to wonder, well, what else is my partner not telling me?
Exactly.
So they wouldn't want to know, so I'm not going to tell them.
I totally agree. So, but I think that there's a level, like some partners want to have, and I mean, everybody has to agree, which is so difficult, but some partners want to have a day out once a week, where they hang out with their metamor, which is your partner's partner, somebody that you are not emotionally or physically with or dating. I used to have lunch dates with a metamor of mine when I was in a relationship with someone, my first relationship actually, and those were very positive, and that didn't come about as first. I actually started feeling much better about the relationship when those happened. And I found that that was what I was comfortable with. Now, there are lots of people that are like, yeah, I'd like to meet them once and then I don't really want to see them again. So what have you found, Jacen, that you really enjoy, and has it grown or changed over time?
Looking at me like, wow. Okay, so let's break it down here. Let's see. You've met pretty much everyone that I've been with, and it. I know you wanted to have Jacen on because he's the monogamous one in this, but I feel like I lucked out because he has never been judgy or like so afraid of something that he's like, no, I can't meet them yet.
Yeah,
that's how Ryan is. He's so open. He would prefer to meet people. So I think you guys are probably on the same page. I wish I could have had him on. He's at work.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single moment that I didn't want to meet, or I didn't already meet someone that she went to go see, or that she went to go on a date with that I didn't get to meet, and like both have my approval, but yet she doesn't need my approval because I trust her judgment, like explicitly.
That is amazing.
There's like, I don't really foresee any circumstance that I've ever had a problem with her other partners.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that Ryan and Matthew have had a few phone conversations. Matthew will be out here for my birthday and he'll meet Ryan for the first time, but I don't foresee any problems. They're both very relaxed about it. Matthew dates and Ryan doesn't. But Ryan has always taken the stance that he loves me because I'm poly, not in spite of it. And I think that that's a really important deciding factor in whether monogamous people can date polyamorous people. And even the other way around, I love him because he's monogamous, because he's so unique. And I love that about him. And it's not that, I feel like I don't want to share him, because I'm perfectly fine sharing Matthew. That's totally fine. But what makes up who Ryan is, at a lot of the core of that, is his monogamy and his way of loving. And I love his way of loving. He's a sweetheart. And I think that that's an important recognition. And what do you think, Jacen and Laurel? Do you love each other because you love differently, or in spite of it?
Well, okay, I think it's so funny. He's got like the wheels turning here. We really do kind of finish each other's sentences. This is gross. So one of the things that I asked Jacen about early on, I was like, I have no intention of not being poly. I'm in the deep end of the pool. Like you can start on the kiddie end of the pool and wade towards me, but like
girlfriend.
I'm like, I'm in it for life, right? And I said, would you ever want me to be monogamous? Like, is that something that really bothers you? Would you ever want to be monogamous? And I believe, if you want to.
And then I said, and what I said was, if I forced you to become monogamous, or had like really pushed her to be monogamous, she would not be the Laurel that I love and want to marry.
Exactly.
So, that was like day one, no brainer to me, was if I tried to change her, then she wouldn't end up being the partner and lover that I would want.
And on the opposite side of that, while I don't know if I can reveal our monogamish kind of tendencies. Well, Jacen has been like exploring the possibility of dating other people. But what I have found is so wonderful about dating a monogamous person is, and maybe this is just Jacen, I hope not, but is the degree of devotion. I don't know if you get this from Ryan, but just like, oh my God, he just loves me so intensely. Like, he's just like, oh, you're like this goddess kind of thing. I'm like, let's be realistic, but oh, I love that. So
I love that about Ryan. He is so dedicated and committed to the relationship. Not that I'm not. I moved in because I'm dedicated, because he means everything to me. But he's got this level about him, to his dedication, to his love, that I don't understand, that I can't get to.
And I'm not sure that we would really want to either. It'll be like, if we solved the mystery, then it would be like, yeah, let's keep a little mystique. But
and at the same time, his love is so simple. It's complicated, and it's very, very simple. I have a very hard time being with one person, and something you should know about me is that I have the tendency to overwhelm monogamous partners. If I'm in a monogamous situation, I find I overlove them, and I'm too into it, and I'm far too dedicated, and it just ends up scaring away wonderful relationships, versus if I'm poly and I'm kind of dispersing the love in different directions, it tends to go a lot better.
You're like, honey, you can't handle a monogamous Lauren bomb.
No, you cannot deal with monogamous Lauren. It's not, and it's almost to a creepy, unnatural level. I just have so much love to give. It just should not be given to one person. It's uncomfortable.
Good times.
So there were a few things that I wanted to discuss today, unless there was anything else about the list that I just read that you were interested in discussing.
Maybe just like one more thing about meeting partners.
Absolutely.
Again, being someone who considered themselves a serial monogamist and then finding out that they were poly, it was really hard to meet my first partner's other partners, especially, when I was so new to it. We both were. And I will say there was one person who I just absolutely despised the idea of for a long, long time. Like, it was so bad that she would stay out of my way because she didn't want to upset me. And after a while, I was like, this is such bullshit. You're probably a really cool person. I think we should probably hang out. And just kind of got over it in one fell swoop. And that was 3 years ago. And now she's my maid of honor. So, wow. So as far as metamors,
that's awesome.
Be patient. If they don't want to meet them, don't push it. Don't push it at all. I don't know if I actually begged or pleaded you, Jacen, to come and meet my other partners, my OSOs.
Define OSO.
OSO is other significant other. So it's
the same as a metamor.
Yeah. So his metamors. I don't really remember there ever being a discussion or an argument or anything about that. You're like, yeah, I'll meet him eventually. And then when it happened, it was just the right time to do that. And I haven't had to meet. Well, no, that's not true. I know your workout buddy, and she's perfectly well. Do you wanna share a little bit about that? No names.
Well, I mean, so I had a workout buddy at Gold's Gym, and we've been working out together for going on 2 years. And the funny part is that we constantly flirt all the time. And it was very recently that I actually brought it to her attention that we flirt, that part of our workout is flexing our flirting muscles. And she's like, really? Wow, now that I think about it, I did talk about your butt a lot. And she actually recently just got out of a monogamous relationship because she wanted to open it, and he was very uncomfortable with it. So they both they're exploring other options, and she's in an open relationship now. And we've been talking about trying to go out, and then Laurel at some points will joke around and say, oh, well, you've already been dating with all of your gym dates.
You've already been dating, whatever. And it's so cool to have another person. Woo, stealing my mic here. It's so cool to have another person on the other side, whether or not they're in a relationship, quote unquote, who is completely at ease with another person's partner. Like, she's come over to the house for like parties. I think she might have been like a little, maybe like the slightest sliver of nervous, like one of the first times she came over by herself, but it was she's such a sweetheart. Like, it works really well for us. Anyway, so that's the gym buddy.
That's super great. It's awesome. And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about a little bit later, is that idea of pushing your partner into becoming poly. And I don't think that that's what happened, but it's one of the warnings that I want to talk about later is if your partner has decided to become monogamous, and they want to stay monogamous while you are poly, then you need to expect that. And if they decide to become poly, you need to respect that too. And often it can be absolutely daunting for somebody who's poly to be with somebody who's monogamous. I know that was really hard for me at first. I had a really hard time, and I used to try and push Ryan to see other people.
Yeah.
And Matthew, and you can't push. You have to accept who they are. But I want to move on to important things that you need to consider in somebody that you want to be in a poly-mono situation with. Really, any poly relationship, but it's really important in a poly-mono situation because there's such a different dynamic there, because you both have a totally different understanding of what it means to love somebody. And as long as everybody's getting what they need, then that's perfectly fine. But it is a very interesting and different dynamic, and it's not for everybody. So the first thing is communication. And what you should consider is, does your partner know how to communicate their needs to you? Both sides need to know how to do this. And it's more helpful if you two understand nonviolent communication. While communicating in a monogamous relationship is really important, it's even more important in a poly situation. And Leslie and I will be discussing NVC and its importance in the future, but for now, you need to consider your partner's communication skills. It will make or break a mono-poly or even a normal poly situation. And what do you guys think about communication? Do you have any tips?
Even a normal mono relationship, I know so many monogamous couples who are like, well, we just assume that this is how it is, so...
Right, but often I've seen so many mono people don't have good communication, and they get by with it for years because it's like everybody...
It's assumed.
Yeah, it's assumed that nobody's doing anything wrong until one day you find out. And this is why I advocate for monogamous people to learn poly ethics, even if they're never poly, because even in a monogamous situation, there are still boundaries. Can you hug your friends that are of an opposite sex? Can you kiss them on the cheek? Can you kiss them? In my relationship with Matthew, even when we were monogamous, I would... There's that sneeze we were talking about earlier.
And she's adorable.
I would kiss my guy friends, and that was perfectly okay. I'd do it in front of him, and he never cared. And the thing was, we never discussed that. And I asked him afterwards if that was weird, and he said, no, it doesn't bother me at all, but he has no jealousy level whatsoever. So, but which is why the transition to mono-poly has been so easy. And that's what we'll talk about on the next show with you, Laurel, is that transition. But it's, we got by for years without even discussing it. And I would just do things. And when I would do them, it would be in front of him. And then I go, so how do you feel about that? Because I wanted to avoid directly asking him. Because I felt like if he were in the situation, it wouldn't be nearly as weird as he imagines it in his head. So that's how I got around having those kind of conversations. Of course, I would ask him afterwards, which is okay, but...
it's almost like better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. You're like, oh, well, I already did it, so how do you feel?
Right. So what do you think about communicating, first of all, boundaries and needs and other things? Jacen, Laurel, what is your advice to other people?
Jacen, what did I ask you about this pretty early on?
when she first asked me about my boundaries and what like she can't do, I like to shed a little light here. Laurel's my second relationship ever in life.
Oh.
So I actually didn't know where my monogamous limits were, or like what my standard limitations were. My first relationship was a long distance relationship that I only saw on the weekends, so it was our dating life was one weekend a month. But with Laurel, I basically told her, if I have a problem that comes up in the future, I will tell you. And then that led to Laurel's just kind of going on and doing her own thing, and then coming back to me and being like, was that okay? Are you okay? Do we need to talk about things? So we constantly checked in with one another, and we still do that all the time. And I think that that's really the biggest thing, is just checking in with one another about any dates or any like feelings that you might have about other people.
That's totally true. And what about you, Laurel? I mean, there's got to be those moments, because I know I have them, where you're like, is it okay if because I think you two live together too, and there's been numerous times where I've been out with a lover and they've asked me to spend the night, and it's so spontaneous and I'm into it, and so I don't honestly know what to do to make it better when I call my partner and say, is it okay if I spend the night tonight? It's not like we had there wasn't any rule about me coming home. There never has been. It's just that
but it's courtesy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that. I'm gonna assume that I know what you're feeling here, just so everyone knows. Like, if you're calling them to be like, hey, is it okay if I spend the night? I don't think it's so much that you feel guilty. I think it's that you would feel guilty if you didn't inform them, like, where you were. You would feel guilty that they might be at home worrying about your safety, or, coming up with any number of possibilities, when you could have just been like, hey, this is something I really want to do. Are you okay with that? Do you need me to spend time with you? No? Cool.
Oh God, yeah, that would totally ruin the night for me. I mean,
Like,
I would
okay,
have fun
I should really, exactly, like, and I think that's why a lot of people finally, come forward about cheating. They're like, it is that guilt, but I don't think you have guilt to begin with. I think you have like premature guilt. So
I think it really comes from the mono-poly situation, because it's not like I can tell them, why don't you invite over so-and-so and see if they're free and they can spend the night there, since I'm not coming home. And I just, I feel a little guilty that he's at home, and I know that this is what he agreed to.
yeah.
I know that this is the situation that he wanted, but Jacen, I guess this is where I want to ask for your advice. How should I feel?
Laurel also has had this problem, still probably has this problem, where she'll go out on a date with one of her partners, and she'll be like, so is it okay if I stay over, if that's a thing? I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then she'll leave, but I get this feeling like she's got like these puppy dog eyes as she's leaving, because she doesn't want to, because she does feel a little guilty. And
yeah,
my biggest advice is, don't feel guilty. I understand that I don't have a date to go on. I could go find, friends to hang out with if I wanted to, or whatever have you. If you tell me that you're going to stay over the night, cool. That means I can, binge watch something on Netflix and eat a tub of ice cream.
that's Ryan right there.
Yep, exactly. I was like, or catch up on like 4 months of video games.
Exactly. There could be times that, maybe there's a activity that you really feel comfortable only doing by yourself. And if your partner is out, going to the club or, having a date, why not catch up on your favorite, smut book series or something?
Book series.
And I think that this is a flaw in me, because why should I feel guilty, other than I would have to assume that either A, they can't be by themselves, which is just a sad prospect, or B, they're incapable and not emotionally mature enough to know what they want and be able to communicate it to me. And I guess it's like the concern is really in do they understand that if they said no, I wouldn't be angry or upset. I would simply ask why. And as long as they could give me a good enough reason, which it's not really that hard to come up with a good enough reason, like I'm feeling sick or I feel like I don't see you enough, I'd be like, oh, well then I'll be home. Like that's fine. But, you know, and I think that that's one of the things that you have to consider, and that really leads into emotional maturity. And that's one of the things that you have to have in a monopoly situation, even more so in that, because you have to be able to communicate and know how you feel, because you are going to, if you're the mono person, you're going to end up having nights alone in the house, especially if you live together and your partner's going to be out, and you have to know how you're going to feel about that so you don't ruin their date. And a poly person, you have to realize you're going to walk out the door and you're going to feel just a little bit guilty. And you need to trust that you had the emotional maturity to communicate to them how much they mean to you before you leave the house. And so when you're considering emotional maturity in another person, ask yourself, is your partner the jealous type? Are they likely to prevent you from being who you are in the hopes of getting what they need emotionally through control? If so, they will not be a good mono partner, and you could damage multiple relationships at one time of their own or yours with your behavior. Neither mono or poly people can be emotionally immature. It goes both ways. Dealing with emotional maturity will be something that Leslie and I talk about in the future as well. But for now, think about why you are feeling the way you are feeling instead of just letting the feelings themselves be your guide. If you attempt to come up with a reason for the way you're feeling, you are on the path to a solution instead of an emotional breakdown. Please remember, you are responsible for the way that you feel, not your partner or anyone else. That is also something that Leslie and I will be talking about in future episodes. But emotional maturity is so important. And I was wondering, like, what do you guys do to keep yourselves emotionally, keep your emotional integrity in this relationship?
Can I, without going into too much detail, can I reveal something?
Sure.
We had a fight last night.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we had a me being upset and Jacen being like, "What? What can I do? How can I fix it? What can I?" So our fights are mainly me being like, "Bleh! Oh my god, all the feels." So.
Dude,
most of Ryan seems pretty level-headed. I've only met him a couple of times, but it's just like
that he's just so darn mellow. And you know what? Sometimes it makes me more angry.
You're like, why aren't you fighting me? But it's weird. It's weird. But you know, if you have these relationships, and I'm sure you've probably been in relationships in the past where things have been quite tumultuous, and you've been like, oh, I'm used to fighting. I'm used to this level of emotional immaturity where like one person says one thing and pretty soon you don't even know what you're fighting about anymore. So I had a little bit of a, I don't know what exactly it was, but it was like a almost like I was disappointed, and then it suddenly translated into a fear response because I'm massively PTSD about some things. So I cried a little bit and was like, I'm so sick of this. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. And then later on, I was like, I think maybe my feelings are doing this because of X. And then today, I'm going to pat myself on the back here, but I bought him a Reese's peanut butter cup while I was out. So I was like, I'm the one that's feeling all weird, but I'm sorry that I took it out on you. Here's a peanut butter cup. I love you.
Oh, that's so cute. You know, I gotta say, I talk about emotional maturity a lot, and I tell people that they need to develop emotional maturity to have any positive relationship, monogamous, polyamorous, swinger, whatever. You have to have emotional maturity because it's an important aspect of loving yourself, is accepting the feelings that you have. And if you can't accept the feelings you have and accept responsibility for those very unique and beautiful feelings that you're having, even the anger and sadness, they're beautiful feelings that make you unique. If you can't accept those things, you don't really love yourself. But I gotta say, there are nights where I'm just storming around and I'm pissed off and I want to throw things. I don't throw things. I have had partners who do throw things, but I have never, I broke one thing one time to see if it would make me feel better, and it didn't make me feel any better. So I never did it again, but it was okay. It was just like a candle. And I replaced it. But, I have these nights where I'm just angry and I don't know why. And I don't know why I'm feeling that way. But the emotional maturity comes in when you're able to say to yourself and to the other person, I just want to be angry. There's no rhyme or reason for it. I just want to be angry. And when I'm not angry, if you would like to still hang around, I can yell at you some and you can just realize it's just me being angry. And sometimes Ryan will just stick around and let me just yell at him for a few hours. He doesn't care. He's so mellow. But he knows not to take it personally, that it has nothing to do with him. I'm just angry, and I don't know why I'm angry. And sometimes I'll be able to, through the yelling, get to the bottom of why it is that I'm angry. But I always preface it with, I'm not angry at you or anything specific. I'm just feeling really pissed off today, and I just want to yell. If you would like to leave the house, that's perfectly fine. I can go leave the house and go in the backyard and yell at, nature. Or you can leave, or you can stay and, listen to me rant. And most of the time he'll just be like, I'll just sit here and just kind of let you just rant until you figure it out. And I normally do, but like the emotional maturity isn't that you don't get angry. That's ridiculous. The idea of you not getting angry, and even angry for no reason. Sometimes we're human beings. Sometimes we just really like the feeling, the adrenaline rush of being pissed off.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never feel that way ever. Don't glare at me.
Anyway. It's like violence. We love violence.
Oh, humans are weird like that. Oh, kitty! Sorry.
I know, he's so cute.
Kitty.
But, it comes down to, can you say, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, because that's just as valuable as I know exactly why I'm feeling this way and I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to resolve it. It's just as helpful for them to say, I don't know why I'm angry. I don't think it has anything to do with you. I'll let you know if it does, but I'm just going to yell right now.
So one of the things, kind of on that same note, one of the things about that I've stressed to everyone, I don't even remember when this like suddenly dawned on me. I think one of my older hippie crunchy friends from London told me this once. You, as a human being, bear with me here, as a human being, you are not capable of controlling your emotions, only the way that you react to them. Like, your emotions are going to happen one way or another. Like, how what response or what hormones your body gives off when you're encountered with like a certain situation is sometimes completely out of your control, but it's how you deal with it that makes you, that level of emotional maturity. So when people are like, oh, you can't control your emotions, I'm like, check, no one can. It's just the response.
I'm just normal, but thank you for pointing out how normal I am.
Like you were saying, I'm pissed off today. I just want to yell. And that's a conscious decision that you were making. If you had like a board meeting to go to, or you were working on a project with someone, you would probably suck it up, put your big girl panties on, go out there and be like, hi.
I'm going to pretend to be happy for this hour that I have to do it.
That is how humans survive with one another. It's not because we're always like, we lie to each other sometimes. No, I'm sorry. We lie to each other for the survival of the species. So it really is about choosing your battles. If you want to have a nitpicky little fight over every single little emotion that you feel, you're like, oh, I'm sad, my partner must have done something to me, or oh, I'm so happy, it must have something to do with this. It's like, just be realistic about it. Like, know that it's you feeling this way. They probably had some influence over that, but that's my little rant. Jacen,
it's
thoughts?
A good little rant.
I don't think he can handle the two of us on a show.
So I also wanted to mention that there are two other really important things when considering partners for a monopoly relationship. One of them is time management. You need to ask yourself, does your partner know how to manage time well? If you or they are juggling multiple partners, you're both going to need to know how to make time for each other that is meaningful. Also, do they know how valuable the time you're giving them is? It's important to understand how important that time you're giving is from your partner. Time is the most valuable commodity to a poly person, and that poly person has, and someone with a poly person can often be a busy person too, and they are scheduling around their poly partner schedule and all of their other partner schedules and their dates. Also remember, it's not about the amount of time, it's about the value of the time. They need to make the time really count. Do they know how to do that? If they're constantly on their cell phone or talking to their other partners or talking about their other partners, then they're not really making good use of that time, and they may not be a good partner for you. And in a poly situation, they're probably not. I don't have time for partners that don't spend our time well. I'm not going to feel that connection, and if I don't feel that connection, I'm not going to stick around for very long, because no offense, but I got a line of men. Like
looking at your watch, like, like I got options, man. Come on. I think that's definitely true for anybody. The most valuable commodity that we have is our time. Not just for poly people. I mean, we sell our time for money. Like, it has that kind of value to us. We survive because we give our time to other people. One of the things that is so massively important about this is, again, the scheduling, and yay, Google Calendar. And I can't wait for you to come out with your app/website.
The calendar is going to be so
for
much
this, because having an integrated poly calendar will be so nice.
It'll
by the way, Lauren's going to have a website, and if you don't sign up, I'll find you. But anyway, free advertising by Laurel.com. Anyway, where was I going with this?
I don't know.
So say that, like, someone is, you're both poly. Say that, your polyamorous partner is on their phone, they're texting someone else, or they're checking Facebook or whatever. Okay, fine. We live in a digital age, and we're constantly on our devices. Like, they're just attached to us at this point. Now, the question would be, are you emotionally mature enough to be like, hey, so I'd really like to spend this time with you, like, kind of, getting to know, like, the deeper you, and you're kind of on your phone, and, like, I don't want to nitpick you if you have, like, some important, like, email or something that you just got. Like, I'll totally understand, but let's find something we can do together, kind of thing. Right. And they may not even know that they're doing it. Say that they just started, like, a new relationship with another person. They might be going off of new relationship energy and just be, like, texting and flirting with, your metamor. There could be any number of reasons. So when you're like, I'm not going to stick around very long, you're like, and that's the situation. I'm out. Peace. It just sounds to me like, well, I know in your heart of hearts, Lauren, that you would slow down and ask your partner why they are doing these things to you. I know you probably would.
Yeah, I definitely would. So the last thing that is really important in a poly relationship, when you're considering somebody to have that relationship with, a monopoly situation with, because it's a certain type of person. And the big one that you need to look for is somebody that understands and is somebody that can practice compersion. So this is something that Leslie and I will be talking extensively about, because it's a different word. It's created and stapled by the poly community. It doesn't have a dictionary definition. So to put it simply, you both need to be happy that the other is happy. This will play into your relationship extensively. First, it will help the mono person be happy when the poly person goes out on a date instead of being sad that they're alone or sad that they feel replaced or whatever. And second, it will help the poly person be happy that the mono person is perfectly happy with just being with them, which can often be extremely difficult, as I've talked about several times on the show. Is I had a very difficult time with being with people who are monogamous. In fact, I've had a harder time with the poly mono situation than Ryan or any of my other mono partners have ever had. They don't seem to sweat it at all. For me, I'm just like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you going to break up with me? And I'm like freaking out the whole time. But compersion is extremely important. So do you have any notes on this? And after we do that, I want to go over the things to be wary of. So what do you think, Jacen, Laurel?
I think this is going to take a second. I think the biggest thing is that everybody, hold on, I'm trying to think of my thoughts here because it's a jumble. Because I'm also talking from instinct, because I have like a base instinct that as long as Laurel is happy, I am happy.
I am so lucky. I can't even begin to tell you.
Like, it's not something that I learned. It's not something that was like trained by, you know, a father figure or my friends. It's just, if Laurel's happy, I'm happy. If that's with her being with another partner for a day, riding on a motorcycle or walking through a park, then I'm happy that I get to spend the time, you know, perfecting my yoga or going out and seeing some friends or even going to the gym for a random reason. And I guess the biggest thing that a mono person needs to understand with a poly person is that, like, to go back to a lot of the points that we had earlier today, they're not trying to replace you, and that they pick you for a reason, whether you're the person that they live with or the person that they see every other week. They want you in their life for a specific reason. You fill a special part in that large, big heart that they have. So you, like, really just take a step back and remember that you can be happy in the fact that they are happy to share their existence with you.
Oh, so sweet.
I totally agree. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't realize how significant it is for a poly person to decide to spend time with you and decide to have a relationship with you because they have other partners, especially like people that already have other partners and they decide to add you to their fold. They're choosing to take time out of their lives to spend with you and find time for you. And I think that really isn't said enough, is how incredibly important it is to consider how valuable that time is to them and how they want to give some of it to you. And people spend so much time thinking about the future of a relationship instead of thinking about the fact that you should be enjoying it now. I mean, you have a relationship right now. And that's really special and significant. And I wish more people understood that. But I want to go over a few things to be wary of, unless you had a note that you wanted to make, Laurel.
I actually kind of do. With the whole compersion thing. With my particular, I mean, I don't see as many of them as I used to, but we're still very much family. My particular polycule thing.
Fold
my poly corral. Let's see how many names we can come up with here. With my particular family, my poly family, we really have honed our techniques and our communications over the course of probably at least 4 years. So by the time Jacen got to me, I was already in a situation where people were either at or just about at a level of emotional maturity where when I started dating Jacen, they welcomed him with open arms. They were like, "You're part of the family now." Like, not in a weird way, like, "We're going to take care of you because you make Laurel happy." So it goes both ways. So the compersion thing, me being happy when Jacen is, you know, playing his video games or catching up on whatever it is that he wants to do, or going to the gym, doing any of his gaming hobbies, anything like that. You know, him feeling happy for me when I'm spending time with any of my other partners, my partners feeling happy for me and their partner and for Jacen. Like, it goes so much further than just like your partner and you. Like, if you have a poly family, you can't survive without compersion. So that is definitely, I'm glad you and Leslie are doing an episode.
No, I'm very excited.
Very
And
excited.
by the way, speaking of which, if you're watching this on camera, this is one of my most important poly partners right here. This is Boris.
Aw.
He is the love of my absolute love of my life. Him and Ivan, his brother. They are Maine Coons and they are cute as buttons.
I
but
feel like they might be jealous, though.
they are.
They seem like the jealous types.
They are so jealous. It's incredible. But so I want to go on to a little bit of the what to be wary of, because I think it's something that we'll want to talk about. So so some of the things that you should be wary of is if the poly partner doesn't provide adequate nurturing or support to help the mono partner adapt to this new kind of relationship, or pressures the monogamous partner to move too quickly into a new way of thinking. Also, if the monogamous partner tries to preserve the illusion of monogamy as much as possible by attempting to isolate the relationship, such as through explicit or implicit denial, refusal, or resistance to acknowledge other partners or polyamory in general. In some cases, don't ask, don't tell rules can serve to continue this illusion as well, which is why I say it's unhealthy. It's important to understand fully that you may be monogamous, but your relationship is polyamorous. It needs to be treated as a poly relationship. Also, if the poly partner believes or expects the monogamous partner will eventually embrace poly as part of his or her own nature, the hope, belief, expectation may be overt or concealed or even subconscious. A person who self-identifies as monogamous may be happy, may be able to be happy in a polyamorous relationship, but may never, ever become polyamorous. Also, if the monogamous partner actually hopes, believes, or expects that the poly arrangement is only temporary and will eventually become a more traditional and familiar serial monogamy relationship. That is, the monogamous partner may hope or believe that the poly person will eventually choose the new mono partner over existing partners and abandon polyamory entirely. Again, this belief may be overt, concealed, or even subconscious. Also, if the poly partner assumes that monogamous people are inherently incapable of adapting to being involved with poly partners and therefore holds back on deep intimacy, involvement, or commitment with a monogamous person. Or if the monogamous person assumes that the poly people are inherently emotionally limited. This is a very common misconception. Immature, unreliable, or that the poly partner's polyamory indicates an inability to commit to a relationship and holds back on deep intimacy, involvement, or commitment with the poly person. And finally, if the poly person is uncomfortable with or insecure about being a monogamous person's only partner, regardless of whether the relationship is a primary relationship or less involved. It's true that many poly people find themselves suddenly and completely abandoned when their dearly loved mono at heart partner finds someone who will be mono with them. This puts the poly partner in a position of being expendable. So it's very important that you take these signs into consideration. If these are things that are going on in your poly-mono situation, it's not a healthy poly-mono situation. And I know that some of them sound okay, but they're actually not. So do you have anything you want to say on that, Laurel or Jacen?
Go ahead if you have a thought.
I would say one of the biggest things is this goes out to a lot of the people that I'm going to classify as mono, is that don't be afraid that even if your partner doesn't push you to become polyamorous, be open to I would say be open to the possibility that you could become polyamorous. like I myself have been looking into the prospect of trying it at least. I even have a few prospective partners, and while it would probably work as it would work well with the poly person to have something more to bond over, don't like actively try and stop those feelings. If you find yourself kind of wanting to explore, I would say go with that instinct, because you can always just
You're like, well, this didn't
exactly
work for me, kind of thing. If you go
I
ahead.
agree. No, I was actually going to say that I agree with that. However, one of the things that needs to be considered in that situation is that it's not the agreement that you entered in on.
Mhm.
So it's not surprising if when the monogamous person says, I want to try polyamory, or and they've been together for like 2 or 3 years or even a few months, and they're used to this relationship, this is the relationship that they've agreed to, there will be instances, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's it's evil for either person to be like, I don't think I can do the relationship that you're asking for. Even if the polyamorous person has been practicing polyamory, has been polyamorous the whole time, sees other people, they may not want that kind of relationship with you. And it may not be about wanting to be with you, because they obviously wanted to be with you. It's just that they may not see that type of relationship with you as the type of relationship they want to have with you. And so even if all of their other partners are poly, if they don't find it to be you to be somebody that they want to have a fully poly situation with, then you need to be accepting of that. And it's unfortunate if that's the case. My heart goes out to couples that have that issue. I'm lucky enough that my partners have always known what they wanted from other than Matthew and I, but that's a very different situation that I'll talk about extensively on the next episode. But when we opened up, it was very different. We'd done we talked about poly several times, and while we were living together and within the same vicinity, because now we live 4 states apart, we never did the poly thing. And it may not have worked when we were together then. It works now. But, it's a different situation, and not accepting the other person reaching out is understandable. I would say do your best to try. Let them explore, and if it's not working out, then it's not your fault if it's not working out, and you need to accept that. But it is best to try, at least. I mean, what do you think, Laurel, from your perspective of this? Do you agree?
I do. I think, I mean, I know we're kind of running towards the end here, but like I said,
you're okay. I don't mind going over a little, especially because this isn't on a particular station or anything. So it had to be a certain limited time.
Perfect. Excellent.
We are not having time restraints yet.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would say like when I started out exploring poly, I really, really, really wanted to understand what it was about. I didn't have anyone that I felt like more attracted to at the time, or like I didn't have anyone that I wanted to date other than my primary partner. And I just couldn't wrap my head around like why it was okay. I'm like, I know I have, quote unquote, the freedom to do as I please, and we're going to have an open, honest communication, and these all sound like really great things. Why don't I want that? And it really took, unfortunately for me, it really did take jumping into the deep end of the pool before I could figure this out. I feel like I'm going to toot my own horn here, but I feel like Jacen has it a little bit easier with me than I did with one of my previous partners, because I'm like, hey, so this is how I do things. If you would like to try to be polyamorous or see another person, go for it. If you don't want to, or you want to talk about it, go for it. I will be here and I will love you no matter what. I'm always going to tell you what I'm up to, where I am. I didn't get that kind of courtesy to begin with, and I feel like sometimes your second or third polyamorous relationship, sometimes, unfortunately, it turns out a little bit better than your first one. However unfortunate that is. But for Jacen only having had the 2 serious relationships in his life, I feel like tell me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like you kind of benefit from all of the pitfalls that I've already gone through.
Probably.
So that's, at least that is, comforting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. What do you think, Jacen, about what I said? If it came down to it and you dated this girl or another girl or a guy or whatever, and you started dating somebody and Laurel said, this isn't working for me, would you understand? Would you understand why it is?
Yes.
And not take it as personally as a lot of people often would.
Like if I had gotten into the relationship with Jacen because I liked that he was monogamous.
Well, we agreed early on in this conversation.
Okay.
Part of what we love about them is that they are monogamous. And maybe they'd be great partners in a polyamorous situation too. But, you can't know until you try it. And at that point, and one of the things that I read about is, and I agree, is that once you go there, once you open up, you can't really ever go back. You can go back to the mono-poly situation, but the relationship has now just changed. And because there's always that possibility that it'll open back up, or you found something out about yourself, or the relationship dynamic has drastically changed after you even try a poly situation with the person you were previously monogamous with.
So if I came to you, Jacen, and said, like, you're dating so-and-so for a little while, and I'm like, this isn't working out. I'm not feeling this. Like, I don't like the way that things are going. What would you do?
I would probably, I would obviously take those feelings into account, and we would probably have a very long discussion. But then I would probably explain to my partner what's going on, and if it came down to it, I would probably stop that relationship to go back to being the mono poly relationship, with the understanding that I've tried what poly is. I've seen what it's like. I either enjoyed it or I didn't, and now I'm coming back to be what I am. And being the kind of person that I am, I don't know how widespread this would be. One of the reasons I want to try poly is so that I can understand Laurel better.
That is an amazing reason.
Um,
I don't think I've told you this yet today, Jacen, but I totally love you. You're amazing.
I do my best to be.
I passed on your message the last time.
So if Laurel came to me and said, I'm glad that you've tried poly, but it's not working as well as I thought it would be, or whatnot, I wouldn't drop my partner like a bad habit, but I would definitely, ease the transition probably back into the mono poly relationship that we have, or come to some kind of like compromise or mutual respect kind of thing.
It's all like beautiful, and you look at this and it's all hypotheticals. You ask, like, what if this were to happen? Well, the thing about it is that we have all these tools at our disposal, but you can't really know until that situation happens. You can prepare for it. You can definitely prepare for it. But, on that same token, I know very well, based on Jacen's You got a little eyelash there?
Gym dates.
Well, based on Jacen's demeanor, just based on the way that he is so intensely devoted and like disgustingly in love with me, if I had a problem with something, I know that he would back off and he would be like, "Oh, okay, let's fix whatever needs to be fixed, and we'll deal with anything else later." I know that he would do that. That is one of the reasons that I love him. But on that same token, I would never. Well, I don't want to say never, but from my understanding of myself, that just doesn't seem like something that I would do. Be like, "Oh, you're seeing someone else. I only loved you because you were monogamous." Like that, like I do love those aspects about you, but it would never be something that I'd be like, "No, I can't share." So
Yeah.
it varies a lot from person to person. So just keep an open mind, really.
I agree. And I don't think that there's any right answer. And that's really what I wanted to highlight, is that that there's a different situation that works for everybody. And, I don't know how I'd feel if Ryan decided to become poly and start dating. I like to think that that would ease a tension in me that kind of makes me feel a little bit sad when I go out and he's not with somebody. But at the same time, it would also change our relationship in a significant way, and I would hope that that would be positive, but I don't know. And it's a very sticky situation. So is there anything else on the things to be wary of list that you really noticed that stood out to you?
Let's see, things to be wary of. I'm just going over the list here.
We've only gone over the main things to be wary of. There's
really,
another
honestly, I think smaller things are going to be relationship specific. I think all of these are really good. Just making sure that you have realistic expectations, that you're constantly communicating, that that you're truthful with yourself and your partner. Look at the reasons why, if your monogamous partner is hoping that like you'll be monogamous at some point, look at the reasons why. They may be feeling like inadequate themselves and that they need to complete this like fairy tale, find their Prince Charming, settle down, have this whole stereotype. And it's like, no, we could be perfectly happy like without doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you rather be, some princess locked away in a castle with her Prince Charming, or would you rather be totally badass Mad Max road warrior type people fighting everyone off together? Like that's what I would want to do. So yeah, open communication, honesty, the ability to negotiate, I think is a big one. Let's see. Yeah, it's really about self-love. Like all these wonderful positive things. What I really do want to stress, and I'm sure that you will do this as well, is that I know that you have Leslie fielding questions today, which isn't just today, like not on Thursdays, but like if anybody has a question, like, comment, ping the page. One of us will answer it. One or more of us will answer it, or, ask the other one. You're definitely not alone. If you have a concern that isn't on this list, or things to be wary of, red flags that are coming up, certainly, definitely ask probably all three of us, because we all have some different experience with all of these situations. So
yeah, agreed.
Jacen,
and my site will address a lot of these issues and how to deal with them when they do come up. It'll all come down to a lot of communication, but I want to go over a few red flags. Okay, so the things that we just discussed are things to be wary of, but there are a few really big red flags that you need to be looking for in a monopoly situation that are especially important in these situations, that they don't happen. So the monogamous person, in order to feel secure, pushes for complete and immediate parity with or even preference over the partner's the poly partner's other existing partners.
I've done that.
Yep. This results in pressuring the poly-mono relationship to develop too quickly in order to prove to the mono partner that the relationship is not inferior or expendable. And I was so guilty of this in my first poly relationship. To me, and I don't know how I got it in my head this way, but it was a game to be alpha bitch. And if I was just alpha bitch, then I'd be fine. And
Then everything would be all okay.
Yeah, everything would be peachy keen. And, you know, I'm glad that I learned that I don't need to be alpha bitch. But I got to tell you, the competitive nature of some people does not lend themselves to a hierarchy poly system. It's why I've done away with the hierarchy poly system altogether, because it becomes too competitive. And I don't want competition in my love. It's not a good idea unless I'm competing to be a more awesome partner than the person I'm with. And do that all the time. You got me flowers. Watch how many more flowers I can get you. Also, be wary of entering into a relationship with a naive love conquers all attitude, ignoring or minimizing challenges and the need to deal with them. I mean, this is any relationship, though. With partners, when partners are each accustomed to different circumstances, or they have very different assumptions or preferences, this inevitably requires a lot of patience, communication, honesty, and negotiation, not just at the beginning, but over the life of the relationship. And the fact is, contrary to the popular myth, love does not conquer all. Sometimes, no matter how sincere two people are and how much they love each other, there may be differences which make a relationship that's satisfying to everyone involved impossible. It's unfortunate when that happens, but it's also important to recognize that it can actually happen.
Sorry, but love doesn't put food on the table.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Somebody gotta make the money. Somebody. So, luckily, that's me, so I can, date a lot of artists. So also be wary of situations where either or both partners expect the other to do most of the relationship work and to accommodate their needs, preference, limits, insecurities. In fact, both partners need to take responsibility for the situation, and both need to demonstrate initiative to work with the other to achieve common ground that goes beyond the new relationship energy. And at the beginning of the relationship, when everyone is still giddy and everything seems possible, it can sometimes be easy to overlook a partner's flaws and to develop the habit of being the only one to compromise when there's a problem. This can make the relationship more difficult down the road. So be really careful what you're willing to compromise in the beginning, because it can really come back to bite you in the butt later. Yeah. And finally, remember, relationships should benefit your life. Don't get into a situation where you or your partner seem focused solely on the relationship's challenges and never on just relaxing and enjoying each other.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Poly people have the tendency to over communicate. And while that's cute and sweet, sometimes we have the tendency to live in this zone where we're always solving problems.
Not everything is a tragedy.
Right. You've got to get to a point where you realize that, it's like what you said before, pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you can just let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Oh, you're going to get Jacen singing here. Don't you dare.
Oh, God, I would love that. No, don't ban him.
No Disney ever. No, I would never, ever do that.
You can do the love song. In the maybe. Okay, so is there anything you guys wanted to comment on these red flags?
Red flags. Let's see.
You're so cute. You're so much singing.
You have no idea how often this one sings. It's so funny. I've done the parody thing. I've done the love conquers all. I'm like, I'm just going to bite the bullet and take one for the team because it just needs to be me. I've done that. I've expected the other person to do most of the work. I think you're pretty extensive here. I really don't. The last one really speaks to me. One of my partners, my first polyamorous partner, used to say this, and it still applies. even though at the time I thought it was very, very hurtful. I'm not sure why. When you said, remember, relationships should benefit your life, he would say to me, if you are ever more sad in this relationship than you are happy, we need to talk. Like, we shouldn't be in this relationship. So if it ever, you know, it's very true. It's very like bittersweet, because it's like, you know, it's a finality. It's very much accepting the fact that, you know, all good things must come to an end. So, you know, if you are in a relationship solely because you've been in a relationship for so long, guilty.
Yeah, we all are.
Just because of that and not because it makes you happy, then you really need to reevaluate where you are. So really take a step back, have a conversation with your partner. If you don't feel that you are both at a level where you can communicate safely or truthfully, maturely, have someone sit in with you, you know, go to a counselor, seek out advice. It doesn't just have to be you and your partner. If you're not comfortable with that, you can definitely call for reinforcements. So, just fun. That's about all I got, Jacen.
Yeah, Jacen, what do you think?
Honestly, this is kind of where a lot of my inexperience comes in, because I don't really get the red flag mindset, really.
So I've never done anything
Red flag is where you just cut your losses and run for the hills.
So I've never done anything like, you need to be responsible for all my feelings.
Yeah, no, that's never happened. Like, I've never felt that I need to be the one who carries most of the burdens, or that I force a lot of the burdens onto Laurel. Like, even when like the new relationship energy like fades or whatnot, like I don't even know if it has faded ever, because I'm such a high energy relationship person.
And this is actually really funny. Just for viewers and listeners, information, Jacen and I have really only been together for about a year. And we're actually engaged, and we got engaged shortly after we met, which blew most people's minds. But once they actually got to see us together, they were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So some of our relationship talk is very different from what you will encounter with other engaged mono, poly, or polyamorous couples in general. We're a little weird. I think, like I said, he's been lucky to have my experience at his disposal, and I've been lucky to have his not so much inexperience.
The clean slate.
Yeah, having a clean slate to work with is really great. But they say that, you know, can't remember exactly how long it is, but after about 12 to 18 months of being with someone, all of like the oxytocin and like the serotonin and dopamine, all these like love and happy chemicals start to wear off. And then it's really based on, you know, what you have in your relationship. And I think Jacen and I started off with open, honest communication and, you know, common interests, so that if we ever do get to the point where all of the oxytocin has worn off, we'll still actually like being around each other.
You know, and you and Jacen started a lot like Ryan and I. That's why I know that Ryan and I are going to make it for a long time, at least a long time, if not forever. Ryan pursued me really hard, and I didn't like him, like, almost at all.
Jason's sitting here laughing at me.
I was like, I mean, you seem like a really nice person, but like, you like me way too much, and I'm just not interested. The more you like me, the more I don't like you.
Oh, exactly.
That's how I am. That's how I am, though, is that if you pursue me too hard, I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I can't get interested in you, because you seem, to me, it comes off as desperate, and it's like trying to push two things together that don't work. And it's like, I like it to be very simple and we both are attracted to each other, but we're not really sure. And Ryan's like, I love you so much, and I'm like, oh my God,
whoa, buddy,
you're freaking me out. And so
I wish.
it took a lot to get over that, and I know you guys have a very similar story.
Very similar, pretty much parallel story here. He's just staring at me like, I told you. He's like shooting daggers at me right now. But anyway, yeah.
Ryan's the same way. He's like, I told you that we would be together, and I'm like, shut up.
Barf. But that's all I've got, Jacen. Anything else to add?
No, I'm pretty set.
Awesome. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half. So I really hope that we prove today that we can all coexist is really the goal. It's not that poly or mono is better. They're just different. Like your love for all of your different partners, family members, and friends. All love is different. It's not about equality. It's simply about its existence. That's all that matters. So in a world where with a growing population of poly people, don't be discouraged. The world is still open to you if you are willing to make the compromises necessary to be with the ones that you love. And I hope that you guys will tune into next week's episode of Control Alt Love, where I will be having Leslie on, and we will be talking about, not going to tell you until next week. Have a great week, guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, all love is beautiful.